Hi, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Alissa. Today we'll be discussing an important estate planning topic that often gets overlooked, estate planning for young adults. To provide expertise on this topic, Liz Uhler from Seaons Legal in Pittsburgh will be joining me. Liz has been practicing law in Pittsburgh for over 13 years and is well versed in all areas of the law. She currently has a private practice, Seaons Legal, and really enjoys building client relationships and learning about who and what is important to them. Liz, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me, Alissa.
Well, this is a topic that came up because you actually came in to speak to our advisor group several months ago, and we, had been discussing specifically powers of attorney for young adults and how important that is. So I thought it would be great to jump on a call with you so we could discuss overall estate planning for young adults.
Yes, perfect.
So people often don't feel that estate planning is an important thing if they don't have children or assets. But why is estate planning once your child turns 18? Why is it important?
Yeah, so I think to your point, a lot of people think that estate planning is just for people who have a lot of assets or have a complicated family situation or, maybe are facing some kind of medical illness or something like that. But actually, estate planning is really for everyone. And I say as soon as you turn 18 is a really good time to think about it. So when we look at it from the parent's perspective, to a parent, there's really not much of a difference between their child who's 17 years and 364 days and their child who's turned 18, right? But legally speaking, there's a really big difference. Once your child turns 18, they are legally an adult. And they are personally responsible for their educational decisions, their medical decisions, their financial decisions. So whereas when they were 17 and you were able to help them make decisions and access information about these matters, as soon as they turn 18, they have to give you permission to do that.
So what estate planning documents in particular would young adults need to put in place?
Yeah, so I'm often having these conversations, sometimes with members of my own family. I have 14 nieces and nephews, and many of them have left home and are off to college. But I also have this conversation quite a bit with some of my estate planning clients when their kids are going off to school or are turning 18. And I like to say that at a minimum, it makes sense for a newly young adult, an 18-year-old, to execute a financial power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney. It may also make sense for them to execute a will or sometimes more advanced estate planning documents. So a financial power of attorney is a document where the young adult would identify a trusted adult in their life, typically mom or dad or both, or some other adult that they feel like they can trust to do this. And in the document, they're identifying that person who would be their agent and would be able to step into their shoes for purposes of financial transactions. So typically that would include things like writing checks, depositing funds, signing tax returns, things like that. On the medical side, so the flip side of the coin, is the healthcare power of attorney, often with a living will component. Same thing here. So the young adult is identifying a trusted adult in their life who can make medical decisions for them or access medical information if they're unable to do it for themselves. And then I always say, if you're a young adult with significant assets, or if perhaps you want your assets to go somewhere other than would be dictated by Pennsylvania intestacy laws, it's a good idea to have a will and possibly also more advanced estate planning, things like a trust.
And so if, let's say, you're a Pennsylvania resident, but your child decides to go to school in California, Michigan,
Yes.
right, in some other state, do you need different versions of the powers of attorney?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I often have this conversation, with parents and also with people who just have homes in different states. As long as you're choosing the same people in the documents, which you would hopefully be doing, I always say it's a good idea to have a form in each of the states. So if you're living in Pennsylvania, but they're going to school in California, I say it's a good idea to have a form in both states. Sometimes financial institutions in one state or medical facilities in one state might be used to seeing particular language or the particular form that's unique to their state.
So have you seen any scenarios during your years of practice that reinforce the importance of estate planning for young adults that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I often think kind of in terms of the financial power and the healthcare power. So 2 examples for the financial power. Let's assume that young adult has executed a financial power of attorney identifying dad as their agent. So one scenario could be as simple as child was home for the summer, had that summer job, now is back to college and realized, oh no, I didn't pick up that last paycheck. So they could wait for the funds to hit their account, through a delayed auto deposit or possibly coming in the mail, or dad as child's agent could go to the employer, obtain the last paycheck, endorse it as child's agent and deposit it into child's account without really any time lapse. Another example that I often see is individuals who have special needs. So a young adult who has the capacity to sign a financial power of attorney is maybe living independently for the first time, but maybe is having trouble kind of managing their bills or managing their income and their funds. So a parent, if they're named as their agent under the financial power of attorney, could set up auto pay, could assist with paying those bills as their agent, and everything works seamlessly. On the healthcare side, I usually say kind of 2 common examples. One, maybe, your child has executed a healthcare power of attorney identifying mom as their healthcare agent. And now child is going off to college or a vocational school and they have to report their vaccination records. And child, for whatever reason, just can't seem to get their act together and make it to the doctor's office to make this request. If mom is identified as the healthcare agent and the healthcare power of attorney and has the ability to access records, they could contact the doctor and kind of move the process along. And then I think the most important one, which is a really sad and scary one to think about as a parent, is the situation where perhaps your young adult child is in a car accident and is now in a coma. Well, in that case, if they have a healthcare power of attorney naming mom as their healthcare agent, mom can immediately receive information about the condition of their child and can immediately make decisions about their healthcare.
Well, Liz, I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your expertise. And thank you to our audience as well for joining. I look forward to seeing you again next month for another episode of Coffee with Alissa.